This is not a love song at all, as you have seen the title. Are you scared about T.S. Eliot? Are you overwhelmed in his images as you have find in his poetry? Hello viewers, stay with me till the end of the video. I try to give some information for understanding. This is Humayun Masoom and you are watching Fluent Goal. The love song of Junior Alfred Prufrock was composed when Eliot was college student. But technically it was published after the beginning of the First World War. At the time, it was actually published as a pre-war poem. So basically if you look at the title, you have seen the Junior Alfred Prufrock, the love song Junior Alfred Prufrock. It represents modern name. Lastly, I can say the poem begins with some Italian lines and these are not English lines. The poem begins with an epigraph which is taken from Dante's Inferno. In this scene, Dante reached one of the deepest part of the hell. Similarly, Prufrock feels that he lives in the deepest part of the hell. He hides his emotions, fears from the society. At the same time, he feels that nobody will truly understand him and judge him. So the epigraphs introduces the poem's themes such as fear, unconsciousness, anxiety about his reputation. Moreover, the title of the poem, the love song of the Junior Alfred Prufrock, Junior Alfred Prufrock, it looks like a romantic song, but it describes hesitation and confusion or hesitations, at the same time anxiety. Prufrock role of a man who is scared of society, scared of rejection, and constantly thinks about what other people thinks of him. Furthermore, the poet Eliot describes an evening which is beautiful or peaceful. It reflects Prufrock himself. So ultimately, we have seen that in this line, Prufrock, it's kind of unconscious patient. Eliot compares him as a unconscious patient. Unconscious patients like who cannot move or act or cannot even take important decision by this. It symbolizes Prufrock's lonely and isolated from his own state of mind. In this line, we have seen the word muttering reflects that quiet, unclear voice and creating an atmosphere of uncertainty and anxiety. So then it shows that Prufrock's hesitation and anxiety. So instead of taking decisions, he overthinks a lot. So lastly, he notices fashionable women are coming and going in the room, and they're discussing about Michelangelo, who is one of the greatest artists. This conversations represents sophisticated society. So on the other hand, Prufrock feels that instead of joining, he feels that he does not belong this world. So it reveals that he overly conscious about his own mind. There will be time. Instead of making decision, he keeps postponing the decision. And that do I dare, the repeated question, the do I dare, reveals that fear of rejections, failures, and becomes the central problem of his life. So later, Prufrock imagines that uh, everyone is judging his body or criticizing his body, and he believes that everyone is watching him and criticizing his appearance. So, and later in Prufrock mind, there are two personalities are constantly fighting. One is he wants love to express and follow his dreams. On the other hand, but realistic Prufrock cannot even make a decision, and fear of rejection, embarrassment, and because of his inner conflict. Of course, proposing to a woman literally cannot disturb the whole universe. In Prufrock's mind, even making a small decision he feels enormous. This reveals that habit of overthinking. All right. In next line, he imagines that he says that he knows everything about his daily life. At the same time, uh, he feels exactly the same because of he already knows about everything about his daily life. Ultimately, there is no meaningful change or excitement, whatever. He imagines that people are constantly looking at him and judging him silently. It symbolizes that the eyes symbolize that society's criticism, whatever. So the fear of judgment makes him more insecure, at the same time prevents him from expressing his true feelings. Ironically, he says, there will be time, but in reality, the time is running out. Uh, After that, Prufrock tells that he wishes he would gather all the question, he would gather all the strength, and he will ask important question. But ultimately, he remains because of fear continuously stop him. In addition, his dream is he will speak honestly, but in practical life he never does. At last, he imagines that the woman will reject him. Even before taking the action, he stopped himself by imagining negatively. So his fear of misunderstanding by others stopped him from taking the action. Very first time Prufrock thinks that he will speak honestly. He considers that he will talk about his lonely experience to the women and he wants to open his heart. Whatever. The image shows that a human being wants relationship. At the same time, he wants to escape from the painful experience, painful thought. But still, his lack of confidence, he cannot open his heart. At the same time, the poet Eliot highlights one of the greatest people, one of the greatest person, John the Baptist, who was beheaded because of the telling the truth. And similarly, Prufrock imagines himself these situations. He Prufrock Prufrock is telling the something like that. I am not the prophet. Prufrock very much worried about the small things such as how his hair is styled, how he's looking at others. So ultimately, his anxiety controls his every part of life. Even the smallest decisions make difficult for him. However, the mermaid represents love, beauty, and at the same time, impossible dreams. Uh, Prufrock thinks that romance and happiness not belong to him. These two things, happiness and romance, belong to others, not him. Well, at the end, he strongly believes that mermaid will not sing to him. The poem ends with like complete loneliness, anxious insecurity, and loss of hope. So this is what happened to Prufrock. The struggle between romantic proof and realistic proof. Prufrock feels that he has value, he has own worth, but on the other hand, the world will never recognize his values, his worth. So why it relevant to today? At least we are not out of this crisis. We are not aware about the what we are doing. We are not sure what we are doing. Thank you for watching the video.